We are here to launch Rachel's wonderful book called Work Wives, and I'm going to hold it up. Here it is. Oh, and there it is. Do you know, I have a real gripe with authors.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were going to come up here and complain about authors,
Yeah,
Cheryl.
yeah, no, I do. I do have a real gripe with authors. And I was asked to speak to a group of them recently. And I said, have your book.
Have your book.
They never show up with their books.
I know, because we're all
Where
like
is your
shy and
book?
self-conscious, and we don't want to
I
shove it in
reckon
people's
loud
faces.
and proud. If you've written a book like this, loud and proud is what I say. And I can see a few authors in the audience, and I say loud and proud.
Yay.
Okay, because we're live streaming, I will repeat the intro. I keep hitting the mic, Tim. I'm really sorry. Okay. All right. So you're all here to meet Rachel. I gather that. She's an English teacher. She's a mum. She's a Diet Coke addict. She's a cat lover, and she hates spiders. And she's a champion of other authors, which I want to talk about later. Rachel has a reputation in the business. She's one of the best. She's best-selling, award-winning author of books like The Patterson Girls, The Art of Keeping Secrets, The Greatest Gift, Lost Without You, Just One Wish. Oh, I can go on and on and on. She's a mainstay in all of Australia's annual favourite lists. 2 of her books are on the top 100, the Better Reading Top 100. I know.
You're making me blush, Cheryl.
I know. But anyway, she's got awards. She's just one of those things. This is not here, but I'm going to say it. She also doesn't iron.
No.
And that is a bee in
You
my...
can probably tell.
That is a real bee in my bonnet, because Jane is here from Better Reading and she doesn't iron either.
Yay, Jane.
And
who has time?
they show up to work every day looking, well, I don't know about you, but Jane shows up to work every day looking immaculate. And me, I've spent 30 minutes always.
It's a waste
30
of time.
minutes.
It's a complete waste of time. I remember I had a friend who used to come into our shop. We had a small shop, and she'd come at the end of the day and she's like, oh, I've got to go home after a day at work and iron. And I said, why? Don't do it. Don't do it. I said, I don't iron. And you probably can tell my kids' school uniforms because she worked at their school. And she goes, no, you can't. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
So it's a waste of time.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. So I think that's the point that we should all remember. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she lives in Swan Valley, WA, with her hyperactive husband, who I've met, 3 mostly gorgeous heroes in training. That's her beautiful boys, 2 ravenous cats, and cantankerous bird.
He's dead now. Sorry.
Oh, did the bird die?
He was 11 years old though, so I did write in the acknowledgements of this that if he got there, because he inspired some characters in the book. A budgie.
Okay. I thought birds lived till they were 70 or something.
I think he was quite old for a budgie, actually.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There you go. She's an animal lover. And she has a very badly behaved dog, haven't we all? My dog weed on my carpet for the first time ever today.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. I locked him out on the balcony for 30 minutes. But anyway, tonight she's all ours. We're thrilled to have her, Rachael Johns. Yay.
Thank you, everyone here in person and online. And thank you, Cheryl, and the amazing team at Better Reading. You guys do amazing things.
Yeah, we love it. But thank you all to you for coming tonight live. I mean, it's so fantastic to see you here. There's lots of people. Well, there are faces I recognize. Am I okay with the mic? Okay. There's faces I recognize, and there are faces that I don't. But thank you to all of you for coming tonight. Post-COVID, it's, very different to come out to an event, but also we're streaming live. So thank you to everybody at home. We stream live every Thursday at 2:00 and Wednesday night at 8. And there are so many people that live in rural and regional communities, as you know, and they can't get to these events. So it's a great way to reach them. I've got to tell you, I just love the Better Reading community, and just a little shout out to all of them. There's a few at the back. There's one in the green shirt back there who is a Better Reading stalker, but also
I love stalkers.
Also, she lives in Petersham, and I saw her at the pool this morning.
Oh, awesome! I see you swimming. Well, your private pool that you.
My private public.
That's
pool.
not pool private.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually your pool. Although, do you know, I got into trouble this morning. A guard came up and told me not to take photos of children swimming. I didn't know that.
You weren't taking photos of them swimming.
Well, do you know, I was taking a photo, and I was going to say, pesky kids at the pool today.
So you weren't taking photos of them.
Yeah, I was. I didn't think anything of it until he said, you can't take photos of kids in the pool. And that made perfect sense to me when he said it. but I didn't know that before.
That's the best.
I said, oh, okay, I'm really sorry. And I deleted them. But anyway, so I couldn't do the pesky kids post. Oh, well, that's that. Okay, all right, we're going to get started.
We've told everyone about the pesky kids now anyway. So
Yeah. I
cool.
mean, that's it. I mean, they shouldn't be taking my lanes at the swimming pool. Okay, all right. So firstly, we're going to start with talking about work wives. It is a really great subject, obviously, and it's a subject close to my heart because my work wife is actually here tonight. She's in the back row.
Yay, Jane.
Yay, Jane. Yeah. And a big shout out to the Better Reading team who's here tonight. But do you want to tell us a bit about the book?
Sure. So the Work Wives, I like to say, is about two women, but it's actually about three. We'll start with the two. Two women who I like to say are as different as Schitt's Creek and Downton Abbey. So if you watch those shows, you can see how different, they are. They both met through work. And I must admit, I haven't worked in the corporate world, well, ever, I don't think, or maybe for 6 months prior to the English teaching.
I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah, but so I based the office on this place.
Right.
Because this is the only place that I've been in the last this is for anyone watching at home, is HarperCollins publishers here. Yeah. Anyway, so Quinn is the younger one, and she is really bright and bubbly. She works in digital marketing, and she is addicted to dating apps. And really desperate to find the one. And then we have Deb, who is total opposite. She's in her early 40s, and she just basically likes to fly under the radar. So she wears black all the time, and she has a single daughter. She is a single mum of a 15-year-old daughter, who we also get her point of view as well. And basically, they have sort of a dare that one of them is going to give up on dating apps, and the other one might give them a go. After they find a magazine article from the 1950s that's the teenage daughter is into vintage things, and the magazine article is about how to find your husband in the 1950s, and there's funny things on there like wear a Band-Aid, so someone asks about cry in the corner, carry a hat box like around the city. It's hilarious. You Google it and you'll love it. Anyway, so they decide she's going to do that, and all is going kind of well with their challenge until a new man arrives at the office, and that's where I can't really say any more. He throws a spanner in the works and causes some dramas, but spoilers.
It sounds very, very familiar, doesn't it, Jane? In terms of
really?
work-wise. Wow. Somebody meeting someone on a dating app.
So out of Jane and you, Cheryl, who's Schitt's Creek and who's Downton Abbey?
She's Schitt's Creek. Well, she's the one that met the person on the dating app, not me.
We'll talk later, Jane, so you can tell me all about it.
Talk later. Okay. All right, so I want to get started. So this is the format tonight. We're going to have some serious conversation here at some point, and then we're going to throw over to you and ask you if you have any questions. So hold those until the end. And also we're going to see if anybody, because we're streaming live, anyone has some questions or comments from home as well. Okay, I want to start with where it all started.
Okay.
How you came to writing, because I think that's quite interesting.
Because you know.
I do know. But you tell us.
So I wasn't a huge, massive reader in school. Well, I did in the early, in primary school. I loved the Babysitters Club and things like that. But in high school, I was more obsessed with boys, or one particular boy. I was a stalker. Who said it was basically, thank God there was no social media, because what I would have put online is horrific. And so, I was madly in love with this boy all through high school. And we actually started going out towards the end of year 12. And then as a dramatic, hormonal, emotional 17-year-old, he said something one day that I wasn't, keen on. And I said, I don't think this is working out, hoping he'd say, no, Rach, you're the love of my life. Don't leave me. Because I thought, he was the love of my life. When you get babies, live happily ever after. Yeah. And he said, yeah, I think you're right. So I accidentally dumped him. And I was, heartbroken in the way I think that only, 17-year-old girls can be. I don't know how I got through my year 12 exams. And then for some strange reason, because as I said, I barely read any books in high school. One thing I really regret, because I'm having to catch up now and I love reading now. You have to read to be a writer. So I just decided for some reason that I was going to write a book about me and this boy. It was very boring. I don't think we can actually call it a book. 80,000 words of absolutely, it was just what we'd said to each other for 5 years. And basically for the first 4, he'd run the other way when he saw me coming. And anyway, I caught the bug, but I knew then you can't end a book by accidentally dumping someone. I thought that was a silly way. So I gave him a horrific disease and I killed him off. And it was really good therapy for me. And I do think, although that sounds funny, I mean it. And I think the authors that I've met, and I've met a lot of authors like you since then, I feel like authors come to writing in sort of two ways. Either they've wanted to do it forever, basically since they can hold a pen, or or they do come to it through therapy. I've met a number of authors who come to writing because they're trying to work something out in their life. And I caught the bug, and I decided then and there that that's what I wanted to do.
I agree with that. I think from the over 400 or 500 conversations I've had with authors through our podcast, there usually is a trigger. There's something, and it's not necessarily negative.
No.
Like some people will tell me that they were raised in the country and they were on a remote property and stories were their lives. And, and that to me is the circumstance that led them to writing. But there is always something, or something happened, or somebody died, or but even sometimes women having children is a trigger for writing. I feel that writers, and this is a compliment,
okay,
right? I feel that writers are always distracted in their head.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Would we agree, writers that are in the room? Yeah.
They're always thinking about story.
Yeah, you're going to feel sorry for our families and our kids, especially trying to tell us something. We're like, oh, sorry, what was that? What'd you say?
Michael Robotham, the crime writer, who I'm sure
great.
A lot of you know, he told me once that he was at a cafe with his wife having breakfast, and she said to him, "You're with her, aren't you?" Because he was writing
the
a book
book's the other woman.
Yeah, well, actually, there was a female character in the other thing.
Yeah,
and he said, "I am."
And his wife is lovely too. I've met her. She's
yes,
lovely.
That's right. And
Who
I
puts
thought
up with that?
That's right. Isn't that just so interesting that that's it? Okay, so you wrote your first book. It was god awful. You didn't shop it around.
No, I didn't. And
I only got that from her.
No, it is. It was awful, and it's so funny that last night someone said to me,
"I haven't read it."
Well, my son read it recently. Like my 8 he didn't read it. He was in my office and he was flicking through, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, he's never read any of my other books." And he said, "Why do people buy your books if this is how bad you are?" Like what? And I said, hopefully I've come a little bit way. And he said, "You should self-publish this." He said, or he said, "Give it to Sue. She can publish it." Because people would want to see how bad they'd buy it anyway. And you can. But then someone last night at an event, and they said, maybe you should destroy it, because you know how like after Jane Austen died and different people died, they find like manuscripts left over. And maybe someone will decide that that's my final book. You're not allowed to publish it ever, Sue.
The thing is, when you die and somebody publishes that book, it will probably make a lot of money and add to your estate. So I'd hang on to it. But do you know what I say too? That's practice.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're thinking of art, if you're a musician, you're practicing. People don't talk about that enough in writing. People often, I think, so many writers I've spoken to, it was terrible, and I wrote 4 books and they were terrible. Well, actually, that's called practice.
Oh, definitely. I think it's someone said it, and I've forgotten who, a famous author, like it's your apprenticeship. You can't become a plumber overnight, you can't be a doctor overnight, you can't just do heart surgery on someone when you one day decide you're going to do it. Yeah. And although this is not heart surgery, it's not rocket science, sometimes it feels like it, hey ladies. But like you do need time, and I think a lot of people get frustrated and with that, but all the learning experience is really important.
Yeah. Josephine Moon told me when I love her, she told me that during a podcast that she got 100 rejections.
She's counted them all. That's good.
No, she put them on a spreadsheet.
So she's much more organized than me. You see,
she had a spreadsheet.
I don't do spreadsheets.
Yeah. Okay, so this is something that I'm always interested in, and I hope you are too, is when you write the one that gets published, how do you know that is the one?
Well, I don't think you do know until someone else says, well, for me personally, I don't think I did know until someone said. You didn't feel right? Look, after 15 years of trying and multiple rejections, no spreadsheets, so don't know how many. Yeah. No, I don't think I.
Okay, so 15 books, 15 rejections or multiple rejections. So did you then just park them and start again, or did you rework that book?
Mostly I parked them and started again. I think that says something about my personality because I'm amazed that I actually ever finish, a book, because I can't finish anything else like jigsaw puzzles or knitting projects or anything like that. So yeah, I would have just been like, nope, that's done. So yeah, no, I reworked them a little bit, tried to edit them into competitions. I did, I suppose, submit some, although the reason I took so long for 15 years was A, that I wasn't a reader, B, Google wasn't a thing, so you couldn't like look up how to write a book, which you can now, and it's quite helpful. And also because I didn't realize that you actually have to submit your work to get it published. So I think I got like 1 or 2 rejections, and then it's woe is me, and I expected someone to come knocking at the door and say, hey, have you written a book? They don't do that.
Yeah,
so
they don't do that. They don't walk the streets and
no,
knock
looking
on
for books.
No, publishers tend not to do that.
Yeah.
So the one that got published, talk to me about your first book that got published and how that happened and how you felt.
Well, my first book really, I actually had a digital book, but that's sort of different. I'm going to go with Jilted, my first print book in Australia, because that's one probably more people know about. And that actually came about because of the digital book. So I was lucky enough to go to an author dinner. I think it was in Sydney. I don't know. And a friend of mine, we won't mention names, they're not in this room for anyone looking. She knew that I'd written a rural romance because that was sort of because of Rachael Treasure. And
did you know that was a genre?
Yes, I think I did because I definitely did because my friend Fiona Palmer had just got signed with Penguin, and there was people like Maggie Magro and Fleur McDonald who had also recently signed, and I thought that was kind of the end. Like it would be there's 4 of them, that's enough. But my friend, at that stage I was getting rejections from other books that I was trying, and a friend said to me, you should try write a rural romance because you live in a small rural community. And I felt like a bit of a fraud because I wasn't a farmer or a farmer's wife. I was a teacher and my husband was there as a supermarket manager, but I did really love the small town community, and I called myself a converted country girl. So I thought I was ready to give up writing really at that time, and I think a lot of people almost ready to give up when something happens for them. So I wrote this book that was a rural romance, and my friend had read a bit of it, only about 1 chapter, and she actually sat next to an author, the publisher, not anymore, of Harlequin at a dinner, and she had a few too many drinks, and she basically pitched my novel, and I think the publisher was like, I just want her to be quiet. So she said, here's my card, tell your friend to send it to me. And that's what I did. And finally the right person read it, because I think, a lot of it is about the right person at the right time.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. It's also a matchmaking process, isn't it? Because if you're sending a rural romance book to a literary fiction writer, for instance, they're not going to get it, right? No. And if you're sending literary fiction to a romance writer, it's not going to work either.
Definitely. You've got to do your research, before you do submit.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what did that feel like? Finally.
Amazing. I think I remember I had a 2-year-old at the time, or maybe, and he'd just woken up from a nap, and I'd had a nap too because I was exhausted. And I sat down my phone with him grizzling on my, lap. Not my phone, my computer. We didn't do everything on phones at that stage, And I think I almost fell off the chair because after 15 years of trying, I did have as I said, a digital book that was a few months before, and the digital book I found out about on the 1st of April. So I thought it was. I told everyone finally, all my writers' friends, I finally sold a book, and they're like, "Are you sure it's not an April Fool's joke?" One person said that it wasn't. So it was kind of like that was in April, and I think this would have been around September. So after 15 years of nothing, I suddenly had a digital book out, and then a print book coming as well. So it was amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, I would think that that's one, super exciting and amazing, but it's also, oh gosh, now I have to be a professional. Did you feel that? Did you feel like,
I don't know if I actually did think that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's true because, being a writer is...
You have to deliver.
Yeah. But I only had a 1-book contract. So at that stage I just was like, yay. And I was still writing anyway. Like I'd already, written most of the next book, because that's what they were saying, always have hope in them. So you just keep going. Like you submit one, and while that's out there, you've just got to get on with the next one. And I think being a member of Romance Writers of Australia really taught me that about professionalism and that it is, the women mostly women that are members of Romance Writers of Australia are business women as well as writers. And that means, you treat it like a job. So you love it, it's your passion, but you also, you keep going, and you just, once one's finished, you start the next one.
Do you know, I've always thought about that, because, when you think about artists, if you're a painter or a sculptor or whatever, you go to another premise usually, or you go to your garage, or you go to another room. And with books, people have this kind of vision that, everybody can write, and I just sit in bed and type and whatever. But it's not that. For a lot of people, it is. I mean, I'm hearing more and more that writers are renting a space, or they've got a space in their backyard. When I interviewed Isabella Orlando recently in San Francisco, I had to drop that in. But no, she said to me quite, like, easy, 9 to 5.
Yeah. I treat the job.
That's what she does.
I think people often say to me, look, oh my goodness, how do you do what you do? How do you write books and stuff, like with a family and do all this other stuff as well?
It's a job.
And I say, I actually admire people that leave the house more and have to actually get dressed and think about what they're going to have for lunch and stuff, as well as their children, get them out the door. I don't have to worry about any of that. I just say goodbye to them, and then, I don't have to get dressed. I can just go. But I mean, some people do dress themselves to make sure I don't have to go that far, but I do dress. I do wear clothes. Just, I mean, like, some people I know are like
around the house naked.
No,
right, okay.
But I know, like, some people say that they, they have to put themselves into specific writing, gear. Some sorts new set of pajamas, I've heard. But I just, go into my office, but I do treat it like a job most of the time. But saying that, it's like any job these days. It's it's not 9 to 5 always. Everyone's job is. Feel like we're all connected to our jobs a lot of the time. So, I do mostly work in the mornings and then do admin type stuff in the afternoon, or other things, or, whatever. But I might work in the weekend too.
So do you give yourself a word count or a page count, or, do you say, okay, today, every day I'm going to do, I don't know, 2,000. I'm making this up.
2,000 is about what I try.
Is that right? Yeah.
I do and I don't. So if I'm writing, like, in the throes of really writing a book, I do aim for 2,000 words a day, and I do it through sprints with a writing friend of mine, Rebecca Heath. So she's in Adelaide, I'm in Perth, but we say over email, we're not going to, check emails or Facebook or anything for the next half an hour. And then we're going to report back. So, I can get 500 words in a sprint. So that's 4 sprints, you get your word count, and it's only like 2 hours with a few breaks kind of thing. So if you're really focused, you can do that. Of course, the only thing I can only do that when I know sort of what's going to happen. So I don't always get 2,000 words a day, but I aim for it. But I've learned in the last year or so to really be kinder to myself, and that sometimes I'm just not going to get it. And sometimes, because of the type of writer I am, I don't really plan huge amounts ahead. Some days I just need to think, more. And maybe some days I'll only get 500 words, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, that's, I mean, I've spoken to so many people, and this is the first time I've heard of that sprints. Is that what you're
really?
calling it?
Yeah, lots of people do it.
How do you spell that?
Sprint, just
as in sprinting.
Yeah, like a sprinting.
Wow.
I said to my family, I'm going to do a sprint if they're home.
That.
They think I'm going running. No.
I've known about writing groups and writers, coming together once a week, but I didn't know about sprinting. I think that's quite cute. Yeah, you could actually apply that to anything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially this day and age where we've got like so many distractions, social media and emails, and it just makes you focus.
It's such a solitary job.
Yeah, and I don't really feel like writing is that much of a solitary job, because I know
all those
so
characters
many,
in the room.
That's true as well. But I've met so many writing friends and stuff that I'm in contact with them all the time. So
they're in your head. Yeah. Oh gosh, it's kind of a level of craziness.
Oh, definitely. We're all crazy, us writers.
We are all crazy. Okay. I want to go back to coming and meeting with you firstly at the Perth Writers Festival, but I think it was before that. I naively, I don't even know why I went to WA, and I decided that I was. Yeah, you remember that?
That was a fabulous lunch.
Come back. And I decided I was going to contact a few authors and say hello and get people together, and you were the first that I contacted. And then Rachel's like, "Oh, leave it with me. I'll, and I booked a pub, and and I don't know, 30, 50 people showed up.
A lot of authors in WA.
Yeah, 30, 50 people showed up, and there was this tremendous camaraderie that I had not seen anywhere, and the night was so fabulous. And every time I spoke to a person, they told me about another writer. They very rarely told me about themselves. They told me about somebody else in the room. And then that person told me about somebody else in the room. And I just thought that's actually quite unique. And then 6 months later or a year later, I was in New York and I was interviewing writers. And this is, no word of a lie. I would be interviewing a writer, recording a podcast, and then I would be going maybe one block down the road to interview another writer, and these two people had never met.
Really?
And
Wow.
then no one knew each other, even though they all lived close. And it took me back to the time that I was in Perth with you.
How long ago did you say that was you in New York doing that?
Well, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years
I
ago.
just wonder if it's changed now because of
I hope
Zoom
so.
and, what the changing landscape during COVID and so many people doing online events and, there's
I hope
podcasts
so.
that people
But I
are
think
doing,
culturally there was something, and I think it's still there, that's quite unique. So talk to me about that and how you guys, did I see Tess Woods was...
Yeah, she launched my book the other night.
Exactly.
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
And there's writers in the room tonight.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that and how helpful that is to, career development, I guess.
Well, I think they're the work wives in my
They
life.
are. Yeah.
No, because I think, that's the thing. Like anyway, whatever job you do, only the people that kind of do that job really understand the ins and outs, the highs and lows. And so I think it's really important to be able to associate with, and as you said, in some ways writing is a solitary career, so you don't just automatically have those people around you like you might in an office or a shop or something like that. So the networking and catching up with other people I think is really important. The interesting thing though is as I said, I've been writing for a long time, and I think it was different when I first sort of tried to start writing in Perth in the late 90s. I didn't feel that support at the groups that I went to, and it was very much if you get published, well, I probably won't kind of thing.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way. People don't just read one author. I remember Julia Quinn. Now I'm name dropping, not that I'm. She came to Perth a few years ago, and she said to a bunch of people in the room, like, people don't just read one, and you can never hurt your own career by helping somebody else's. You can only hurt your own career by writing bad books or saying, terrible things or whatever. And the people don't just read one author. Although I have met a couple of readers that do say, I only read Danielle Steele, and then I found you as well. So, so that maybe there are a few. Danielle Steele writes a lot of books, so you can just read her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's about, she also said, like, we want people to keep reading. So it's better for us if they're reading books than watching Netflix and stuff. So, it's better to support until our next book comes out, because most of us can't write one book a week.
No.
Most of us.
Why?
We do know some people that can.
Yeah. Right. Why? Okay. All right. We're running out of time, but I just want to ask you one last question. What book number are you up to, and how do you see the future?
The future for me or the future
Yes.
for everyone?
No, the future for you.
Well, I think I'm up to 28 if we count novellas.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's
So
extraordinary.
I did check this
think
the
it's
other
half of
day
that.
because people ask, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is my 18th, I think, for Harlequin. So 18th full length novel. And how do I see the future? Well, I just hope I can keep doing this, basically, because I can't do anything else. So, that's a problem. I just want to keep writing books, and I hope that I can do that. I've really learned, I think, in the recent years, though, and I heard on a podcast Jane Green say this, that you meet one sort of milestone, and then that's not enough. You want the next one and the next one, and I think to myself, well, I just wanted to do this full time, and I do, so I have to remind myself and maintain the love for that, and anything else is icing on the cake.
Extraordinary. Okay, I think we're up to question time. You ready for some
Yay.
questions
Yeah,
from the
definitely.
audience? Okay. All right then. Now, the lovely
Does anyone
Jane.
have any questions here? And we
Don't
will
be shy.
we will actually check and see if there are any questions from our readers at home as well. But does anyone
Anybody?
have any questions? I'll bring up the microphone. Come on. Start it up.
Yay, got one.
Hey, Rachel. Thank you
Hello.
for coming all the way over from
Oh,
Perth.
thank you. Nice to see you, Emma.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, me too.
I wonder how many plots and stories do you have milling around in that incredible imagination of yours at the one time? So in order to be so productive, I know you're writing a book, you're promoting a book, you're editing a book. How do you keep so much going on in your head? And how do you not kind of mix it up and like a character who's in The Work Wives, mix them all up in different books?
Yeah. I don't actually know. I don't know about the mixing up thing. I'm not one of those people who have lots and lots of ideas. Like, some authors say that they will never be able to write all their ideas. I think they should sell them to us if that's the case, if they've got too many to write, because I'd buy them. But I think, you're always like, currently I'm talking about The Work Wives. I've just submitted next year's, hopefully, book. And I'm thinking about what to write next.
See, I find that so extraordinary.
But so many authors that I talk to that are on the one book a year schedule. That's just what you kind of do. I'm really lucky that this year I had finished the next book, so I've sort of got them in chunks, I suppose. Whereas sometimes I have to stop writing to edit a book, and that's hard. I find not so much that I get confused. It's just you get out of the zone of the book you're in, and I think it's always best if you could just keep going through and stay in it. Yeah, I don't know if that really answered that question because I'm not sure how.
We have another question here from Petra, isn't it?
Hey.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Have you ever thought about going back and picking up from a character from one of your earlier books?
Not way back. I mean, I have done that in The Art of Keeping Secrets. I then wrote character story in How to Mend a Broken Heart. People are often asking for a sequel to the Patterson Girls, but I'm not really sure what would happen. I actually thought about Mandrout recently. So that was my second real romance. A lot of people love it, and I really loved it as well. To see sort of what's happening to that town that originally had no hardly any women in there, and then Imogen came and changed them all. So I'd like to see what's going on there, maybe see. But no, not really. I never write a book thinking that there's going to be potential, although currently I have written a book for next year that is a character that I never planned to write, and it's Adeline from the Talk series. So never say never.
Any other?
I'd like to know, apart from the professional people that help you, like the editors, etc., do you have a team that you share your work with as you're writing? And at what point do you actually share that work? Is it something that's ongoing, or do you basically write a draft in its entirety before you share it?
Good question. I basically got just two people now. When I first started to write, and where it wasn't published, I had a critique group and we all read each other's things. But most of us have now got published and life's got busier, and some of us have gone different directions. So there's two people that read all my stuff before I send it to anyone here. That's my mum. And she basically just says, "It's great, keep going."
That's the pattern
and I think that's kind of what I need. And then I've got another person who I mentioned who I do sprints with, Rebecca Heath, who's read every single book that I've ever written and a lot of the ones that were rejected. And so we mix and match. Sometimes we do it in chunks. Mostly we do it in chunks, probably like 30,000 words or so we send to each other, and then we read that and sort of, but it's less sort of about critiquing now and more having someone who knows the story and knows kind of what you're trying to do, so that if you need to brainstorm, different directions and things like that, you can talk about the story with them. I think that's what I find more useful now. Yeah.
I've got some, can I take some comments from, so we're streaming live, and we've got Kate Solly. Do you write from start to finish, or do you write scenes and then piece them together?
Hi, Kate. Kate's a new author too, with a book coming out next year.
Oh, there you go.
I mostly write chronologically from start to finish, although every book is different. And the book that I've currently written, I actually did sometimes write scenes ahead. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And you just hope then that what you're writing ahead is actually going to, work.
Kate says also that cockatoos live until they're 70.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a cockatoo.
No, she had a vulture. Just making that comment, that's all. Okay, all right. Any more questions from the audience? Oh, yeah.
Thank
Thank you. Is there a book of your own that you love best?
Oh, it's such a hard question.
And the second question, is there another book, like a classic book, that you also love best that you would go back to like
Yep.
fill the well?
Okay, I can easily say that one. Is Bridget Jones a classic? Bridget Jones' Diary, I actually recently reread it. And so, yeah, I think that I'm doing backwards because that's the easier one to answer. I think I really love Bridget Jones' Diary because it kind of made me realize when I read that, probably my late teens, early 20s, that you can write a book that's fun and, is a page turner and is about things that, regular people go through and can have meaning and really, can emotionally connect with people. It doesn't have to be serious, something that's going to win the Booker or the Pulitzer Prize. No offense against those, but that wasn't me. And after going to uni for 3-4 years, that's what I thought I should be writing, but it was never me. So then I think I read Bridget Jones and thought, hey, I don't have, I can write something that's fun and something that really connects with everyday people. So I love that book. As for me,
Although I think you write better than her.
oh, thank you.
you.
As for me, well, I should say The Work Wives because that's all the promotional, thing that they say you should say. But I'd have to say, if I have to only choose one, it's probably going to be, it's a toss-up between The Patterson Girls and Just One Wish. The Patterson Girls because it was my first kind of in this genre, and I just loved that story because I didn't have any expectations of myself in this genre. It was something just trying new and it worked. It seems to work. But I really love Just One Wish as well because that just was fun. 3 generations of women and yeah, I like exploring relationships between different ages. Yeah.
Any other questions? Got any others?
I've got another comment from Kate Solly. I'm wearing my "What are you reading" shirt today, she said, and it's my favourite, which is a bit of a segue because we've got some prizes to give away. So shall we do those
Yay.
now? Okay, are you going to ask a question?
Okay, the ones you said earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
So hang on a second, we'll tell them the rules.
Okay, you tell them the
right?
rules.
Yeah, okay. So we've got 3 gifts to give away. 3. Do you want to hold them up, Rose, and parade them?
I love my Better Reading t-shirts too.
I know you do. I know we sent
I
you
almost
and
wore
then
one
you
tonight, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And what's in the bag, Rose? A notebook as well. And we do have T-shirts, but you need to jump online for those. Okay, so go. That's what they win.
Okay.
Oh,
No,
the
not
first
yet.
person to put their hand up wins.
Who's the judge? Who's like watching?
Me, with the correct answer. Who's Joe? Joe Munro's going to be the judge.
You're the judge, Joe.
We're judges.
Josie's already got a hand up.
Okay, all right. Okay.
You haven't asked the question yet. Calm down. No. What is my favourite drink? Ray. Diet Coke, she's right.
Yes.
So Ray gets a bag.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we waiting? Okay now.
Yeah. No, go.
What is my dog's name? Yes, perfectly. Thank you. Addie. What's my favourite colour? Everyone's trying it out. Okay, the back here. Pink, yes.
There you go. There are the 3.
It's pretty
bags.
obvious.
It is pretty obvious. Okay, now any more questions? I've got lots of thank yous and hellos
Any other questions?
online. Any other questions that people want to ask? No? I think that and is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I just want to say thank you to, is it Abby's Bookshop?
Oh,
hope
yeah,
I've got the right bookshop.
absolutely.
It
is Abby's
for coming
Bookshop.
along and yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'd like to thank Harlequin HQ.
And me too. I'd like to thank them as well.
Would you?
Yeah, that's good.
I think it might be a given that we both.
Yeah, and I
agree
want to thank
thanks.
you
Okay.
and everyone
All
at
right.
Better Reading.
Yeah, and I want to thank you.
Oh,
But also,
and everyone that came.
I want to thank Harlequin, but I also want to thank all the lovely readers that have come in and they've travelled. So many people have travelled distances.
Yeah.
I think I spoke to somebody that'd come in from Newcastle.
Yep.
So thank you so much for coming tonight. I've really enjoyed this. I mean, I do this a lot, but it's usually live streaming. So to have an audience is so
It's fun.
wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Joe, for hosting us. It's so
Yes.
lovely. Thank you, Rachel, for writing. Thank you, Abby's Books. And thank you to the Better Reading team
Yes.
because they're all here. Our lovely sound person, Dex, who I know a lot of you know, and Rose and Natalie are here tonight. So let's give Rachel. a round of
Thank
applause.
you. And you guys, you are amazing. I love Better Reading.